My name is Bridget Coleman, and I'm 25 years old. I'll never forget the day my world flipped upside down, standing in my brother's sleek Miami office, his eyes cold as steel. "You're throwing everything away for some homeless woman," he snapped, slamming his fist on the desk. Papers flew everywhere, and my heart raced. I told him I was just helping a stranger, a woman I barely knew, by giving her a place to stay and a job at the cafe where I worked. He had promised to fund my dream of opening a healthy fast food restaurant. Now he was tearing that promise apart. "You're a fool, Bridget. You're no sister of mine." His words hit harder than I expected, each one stabbing at my chest. I held my ground, chin up, refusing to let him see me break. "She deserves a chance," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. He scoffed, grabbed his phone, and canceled the bank transfer right in front of me. $10,000 gone in a single click. "Get out," he growled, pointing to the door. I walked away with my dream in shreds, but a fire had been ignited inside me. I would prove him wrong, no matter what it took. That woman I had helped changed everything in ways I couldn't have imagined. Years later, when her secret came to light, it left my brother begging for a piece of what I had built. Do you think my brother was too cruel? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Weeks after his betrayal, I was wiping down tables at the cafe when I saw her again, the homeless woman I'd helped. She sat outside, sketching recipes on a tattered napkin, her hands steady despite her worn clothes. I approached, offering her a coffee. "I'm Bridget," I said, sliding the cup toward her. She looked up, eyes sharp, and introduced herself as Clara. We talked, and I quickly realized she had a gift for cooking. Her recipes were genius, blending bold Miami flavors with healthy twists. "Why don't you cook anymore?" I asked. Her smile faded, and she mumbled something about stepping away from the spotlight. I didn't press, but her words stayed with me. That night, I called my best friend, Kristen Burke, who had always believed in my restaurant dream. "I met someone who could help us," I said, my voice buzzing with excitement. Kristen didn't hesitate. "Let's do this, Bridget. Let's open that place." We found a rundown spot in Miami's Wynwood district, a narrow storefront with peeling paint and a flickering sign. It was all we could afford with our savings. Clara agreed to join us, sharing her recipes: kale quinoa bowls, avocado tuna wraps, dishes that could make healthy fast food a hit. Her past remained a mystery. When I asked about her life before the streets, she changed the subject, her eyes distant. I figured she'd tell me when she was ready. Kristen and I spent nights scrubbing floors, painting walls, and begging suppliers for credit. The equipment was secondhand, the budget tight, and every step felt like a gamble. I poured my heart into the recipes, tweaking them under Clara's guidance. Her quiet confidence pushed me forward. She hovered over the stove, adjusting spices with precise skill, yet never bragged. Money became our biggest problem. Our savings disappeared fast, and suppliers started calling, demanding payment we didn't have. Swallowing my pride, I called my mom. "I need help," I said, explaining the restaurant. Her voice was soft but hesitant. "Bridget, I can lend you $5,000. But you know I believe in your brother's judgment." My stomach twisted. She was still on his side, still thinking I was chasing a pipe dream. The loan barely covered a month's rent, and I hung up, feeling more alone than ever. The community didn't make it easier. Locals whispered about our fancy health food, skeptical it could survive in a city of burgers and tacos. Some even questioned Clara's presence, muttering about the homeless woman in our kitchen. I overheard a customer at the cafe say, "Who trusts a cook like that?" I clenched my fists, desperate to scream that Clara's talent was the heart of our menu. Kristen kept me grounded. One night, as we unpacked a delivery of mismatched plates, she grabbed my shoulders. "We're doing this for us."
"Not them," she said.
I nodded, though doubts crept in. Could we really pull this off? Clara noticed me staring at a stack of unpaid bills and sat me down. "You've got fire, Bridget," she said, her voice firm. "I've seen people try and fail, but you're different. Don't let them dim that." Her words hit hard. I realized she wasn't just talking about cooking, There was something bigger behind her eyes, something she wasn't ready to share. I didn't know it then, but Clara's belief in me was about to change everything. We pushed forward, working late into the night, perfecting every dish. Clara's recipes were our secret weapon, but the whispers and bills kept piling up. I lay awake at night, questioning whether I'd made a mistake, wondering if my brother had been right. But every time I saw Clara in the kitchen, her hands moving as if she was born for it, I knew I couldn't give up. Not on her, not on Kristen, not on myself. The real test was coming, and I had no idea how much it would cost us. The next morning, a delivery truck pulled up with our first big order of ingredients. The truck roared away, leaving crates of fresh kale and quinoa stacked outside our Windwood storefront. Our restaurant was officially open, and my heart raced as the first customers trickled in. I stood behind the counter, watching a young couple bite into Clara's avocado tuna wraps, their eyes lighting up. "This is unreal," the guy said, nudging his girlfriend. I grinned, but my nerves were still on edge. Kristen buzzed around, taking orders with her infectious energy, while Clara stayed in the kitchen, her hands a blur as she plated each dish with precision. We had done it. Our healthy fast food dream was alive in Miami's food scene. Every order, though, felt like a test. Every customer was a chance to prove we belonged. 2 weeks later, a woman in a sharp blazer walked in, notebook in hand. She introduced herself as Susan Marsh, a food critic for Miami Bites. My stomach flipped. Her review could make or break us. She ordered a kale quinoa bowl and sat quietly, scribbling notes. I hovered near the kitchen, whispering to Clara, "This is big. We can't mess it up." Clara just nodded, her focus unbreakable, as she drizzled a citrus vinaigrette over the bowl. When Susan took her first bite, she paused, then smiled. "This is bold," she said, locking eyes with me. "You're onto something here." By the next morning, her review was online, calling our food a game changer in Miami's fast food scene. Orders poured in, and our tiny dining area was packed for the first time. Kristen high-fived me behind the counter, her voice squealing, "We're actually doing this, Bridget." Susan didn't stop there. A week later, she emailed, inviting our restaurant to the Miami Food Festival, a huge event showcasing the city's best eateries. "Your fresh take deserves a spotlight," she wrote. I read the email aloud to Kristen and Clara, my hands shaking. This was our shot to go big, to show Miami we weren't just a flash in the pan. But the festival was only a month away, and we barely had enough staff or supplies to keep up with current demand. Kristen grabbed a notepad, already planning. "We'll need a bigger menu, more hands, everything," she said. Clara chimed in with an idea for a new dish, a spicy mango chicken wrap, to wow the crowd. A surge of hope coursed through me, but it didn't last long. Whispers began creeping in, quiet at first, then louder. Customers started asking strange questions. "Is your chicken really organic?" one woman demanded, brow furrowed. "I heard you cut corners on ingredients," another muttered. My jaw dropped. I had spent hours vetting suppliers to ensure quality. Kristen overheard another table murmuring about cheap produce and shot me a worried look. It didn't take long to figure out the source: my brother. He had been spreading lies about our ingredients to his industry contacts. A supplier tipped me off, saying they had heard him at a networking event claiming our restaurant was a scam that wouldn't last. My blood boiled. He wasn't just cutting me off, he was trying to bury us. After closing, I confronted Kristen and Clara in the kitchen, voice tight. "He's sabotaging us," I said, slamming a dish towel on the counter. Kristen's eyes narrowed. "He's scared you're going to outshine him," she said, her tone fierce. Clara stayed quiet, jaw clenched like she knew more than she was letting on. I didn't push. There was no time. The festival was our chance to prove him wrong, and we threw ourselves into prep. Kristen trained 2 new part-timers, teaching them to handle the rush. I stayed up late perfecting the menu with Clara, who tweaked recipes like a master. We stretched our budget to buy extra ingredients, skipping sleep to practice plating. Every night, I checked online reviews, wincing at new comments echoing my brother's lies. "Overpriced and sketchy," one read. Each word felt like a punch, but I refused to let it stop me. The festival loomed closer, and the pressure mounted. We were betting everything, our reputation, our dream. Kristen kept us focused, cracking jokes to ease the tension, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Clara worked harder than anyone, her hands steady even as orders piled up. One night, I caught her staring at a photo of the festival's logo, expression unreadable. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but something in her eyes told me she was holding back. I didn't know what, but I trusted her. We had to make this work, no matter what my brother threw at us. A week before the festival, Kristen burst through the door, waving her phone, eyes wide with excitement. "Tara's throwing her birthday party this weekend," she said, scrolling through a text. "She wants us there. It's a big deal." I nodded, stomach twisting. My cousin's parties always drew family, which meant facing my brother. I hadn't seen him since he spread lies about our restaurant, but Tara was family, and I wouldn't let him keep me away. "We're going," I told Kristen, forcing confidence into my voice. She grinned, already planning our outfits. The party was at a rooftop venue in downtown Miami, decked with string lights and filled with industry folks from the food scene. Tara Quinn, my cousin, spotted us and rushed over, pulling me into a hug. "Bridget, you made it," she said, her smile bright as she turned 28. Kristen handed Tara a gift, and we mingled, but my eyes kept darting to the crowd. That's when I spotted my brother by the bar, laughing with a man in a tailored suit.
Kristen nudged me.
"Don't let him get to you," she whispered. I gripped my drink, determined to keep the night peaceful. It didn't stay that way. Tara pulled me to the center for a birthday toast. "To family and chasing dreams," she said, raising her glass, her eyes flicking to me. "Like Bridget's restaurant, built with heart, and Clara's incredible recipes." The crowd clapped, but my brother's voice cut through. "Recipes? You mean that homeless woman scraps?" he sneered, stepping forward. The room fell silent, and my blood boiled. "Her name's Clara," I shot back, my voice steady. "And her food's better than anything you've ever done." He laughed cold and sharp. "You're betting on a nobody, Bridget. Your little restaurant's a joke. And it's going down." Tara stepped between us, her face hard. "This is my party, not your battleground," she said, glaring at him. But he ignored her, eyes locked on me. "You think you're winning with that food festival? You're nothing." My fists clenched, ready to fire back, but the man beside him spoke first, his voice low but clear. "She's not nothing," he said, looking directly at me. "And neither is Clara." I froze. He introduced himself as Derek Lane, my brother's colleague from his restaurant chain. His face looked familiar, and the way he said Clara's name sent a chill down my spine. "What do you know about Clara?" I asked, my voice sharp. The crowd leaned in, sensing the tension. Derek hesitated, glancing at my brother, who shot him a warning look. But Derek straightened, jaw set. "Clara used to run a chain of restaurants," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I worked with her years ago. Your brother stole her recipes to get his promotion." Gasps rippled through the room. My brother's face turned red, his hands shaking. "That's a lie," he shouted, stepping toward Derek. But Derek didn't back down. "I saw the emails," he said, eyes meeting mine. "I helped him do it, and I've carried that guilt ever since." My heart pounded as the truth sank in. Clara's skill, her precision, it wasn't just talent. It was a legacy my brother had exploited. I stepped closer, voice unwavering. "I'm not stopping," I said. "We're going to the Miami Food Festival, and we'll prove you wrong."
Clara. Me.
All of us. The crowd murmured, some nodding in support. Tara grabbed my arm, her voice fierce. "You've got this, Bridget," she said. Kristen stepped up beside me, eyes blazing. "We're with you all the way." My brother's face twisted with rage, but he said nothing. He shoved past Derek, storming toward the exit, leaving whispers in his wake. Tara pulled me aside later, her expression serious. "I had no idea he was this low," she said. "You don't deserve this." I nodded, grateful, but my mind was on Derek's words. Clara had a past she'd kept hidden, and my brother had been part of it. I didn't know the full story yet, but I knew I'd fight for her legacy. As we left the venue, Kristen's phone buzzed with a new email. She stopped in the parking lot, reading aloud, her face tightening. Check the Miami Foodie Forum. People are trashing your restaurant. My stomach dropped. I grabbed her phone, scanning the posts. They claimed our quinoa was moldy, our fish frozen, our smoothies watered down. Regulars were canceling bookings, and our online reviews tanked overnight. This isn't random, I said, voice shaking. It's Steven. Kristen nodded, jaw clenched. He's hitting us where it hurts. Back at the restaurant, the damage was clear. Tables that had been packed last week sat empty. A loyal customer, a gym owner, approached hesitantly. Bridget, I heard you're using cheap ingredients, he said, frowning. Is that true? I assured him our suppliers were top-notch, but doubt lingered in his eyes. Kristen slammed a stack of menus down. He's trying to sink us before the festival, she said. Clara paused in the kitchen, knife hovering over a mango. She didn't speak, but her eyes burned with something unspoken. The Miami Food Festival was just 3 days away, and we couldn't afford this hit. Then the landlord called. I got an offer to buy the building, he said, tone clipped. Some corporate guy wants you out fast. My heart raced. I pressed for details, and he mentioned a shell company tied to my brother's restaurant chain. Steven wasn't just spreading lies. He was trying to evict us, to crush our dream before the festival. I hung up, hands trembling. He's playing dirty, I told Kristen, who was already digging through public records on her laptop. It's him, she confirmed, pointing to a vague corporate name linked to his firm. We had no hard proof, but the pieces fit. That evening, my phone rang. It was Derek Lane, the colleague who'd exposed Steven's theft of Clara's recipes at Tara's party. Bridget, we need to talk, he said, voice urgent. I have documents you'll want. I hesitated. His betrayal of Steven made him an ally, but trust was hard. Still, his guilt at the party had felt genuine. I agreed to meet him at a diner near Wynwood. He slid a USB drive across the table, avoiding my gaze. These are internal emails and contracts, he said quietly. They prove Steven used Clara's recipes to secure his VP role. And now he's paying bloggers to smear your restaurant. I plugged the drive into my laptop, breath catching as I read the emails detailing payments to anonymous accounts for online attacks. There were also contracts showing Steven claiming Clara's dishes as his own years ago. I had to act fast. Kristen knew a journalist, Robert Gray, from the Miami Herald, who covered food industry scandals. I called him, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. I have evidence my brother's trying to ruin my restaurant, I said, outlining the emails and the attempted building takeover. Robert agreed to meet us the next day at his office. When we arrived, he scanned the USB's contents, his expression growing serious. This could be big, he said, tapping his pen. If these check out, I'll publish before the festival. I handed over everything, heart pounding. Kristen squeezed my shoulder. We're fighting back, she said. Robert moved quickly. 2 days later, his article went live, headlined, Restaurant Exec Linked to Recipe Theft and Smear Campaign. It exposed Steven's payments to bloggers and his theft of Clara's recipes, backed by Derek's emails and contracts. The story spread like wildfire across social media, food blogs, and local news. Customers who had turned away started calling to apologize, and new ones came, drawn by our underdog story. Steven's reputation crumbled. His company issued a public apology, and industry insiders distanced themselves from him. But he wasn't done. The morning before the festival, he stormed into the restaurant, face flushed with anger. You think a news article changes anything? He yelled, pointing at me. Customers froze mid-bite. Clara stepped out from the kitchen, arms crossed, staring him down. You're done, Steven, I said, voice cold. The truth's out, and we're still standing. He scoffed, but his eyes darted nervously. You'll fail, he spat, shoving the door open as he left. Kristen grabbed my arm, voice fierce. He's wrong, Bridget. We've got this. I nodded, but the festival loomed, and the pressure was crushing. Later that night, as I locked up, Clara pulled me aside. Her voice was low, the restaurant quiet except for the hum of the fridge. She led me to a corner booth, hands clasped tightly. "Bridget, there's something I need to tell you," she said, eyes searching mine. I sat, heart racing. Clara had always been private, her past a mystery beyond the recipes she'd shared. After Derek's revelation at Tara's party, I knew there was more, but I wasn't ready for what came next. "I wasn't always like this," Clara began, voice steady but soft. 20 years ago, I owned a chain of restaurants, Newman's Bistro. They were the talk of Miami, built on my recipes. She paused, fingers tracing the table's edge. "I lost everything when your brother stole my work. He was my business partner then, and I trusted him. When I hit hard times, he took my recipes, my brand, left me with nothing." My jaw dropped. Derek's words at the party now hit harder. Clara wasn't just talented, she had been a pioneer, betrayed by Stephen. I reached for her hand, voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. You believed in me, Bridget. That's why I'm giving you this." She slid a folder across the table, hands steady. Inside were legal documents, ownership papers for Newman's Bistro, still in her name, untouched by Stephen's schemes. "I'm signing it over to you," she said. "The restaurants, the brand, everything. It's yours to rebuild." I stared at the papers, mind reeling. This wasn't just a gift, it was a legacy, a chance to carry forward what Stephen had tried to destroy. Before I could respond, more news broke. Robert Gray's article had done more than tarnish Stephen's reputation. His company fired him that morning for ethical violations. Social media buzzed, and his industry allies turned their backs. By noon, he appeared at the restaurant, suit rumpled, face pale. "Bridget, we need to talk," he said, desperate. Kristen, wiping down tables, shot me a look but stayed silent. I crossed my arms, standing firm. "What do you want, Stephen?" I asked, tone icy. He paced, hands shaking. "I know about Clara's restaurants. You can't handle that kind of business alone. Let me in. We can share it, rebuild together." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You stole her life's work, and now you want a piece of it." I stepped closer, voice low. "You spread lies, tried to evict us, and betrayed everyone who trusted you. I'm done with you." His eyes widened, but I didn't stop. "You're not my brother anymore." The words cut through the air, final and heavy. He stood frozen, then turned and left without a word. That evening, my mother, Donna Quinn, called me to her house in Coral Gables. I braced for her to defend Stephen. She always had, but when I arrived, her face was grim. "I read the article," she said, setting down her coffee. "I didn't know how far he'd gone." She stood and pulled me into a hug. "I'm proud of you, Bridget. You're doing right by Clara, by yourself." Her words hit me like a weight lifting I hadn't realized I was carrying. "Thank you, Mom," I whispered, my voice catching. She nodded, hand on my shoulder. "You don't need him. You've got us." The Miami Food Festival was just hours away, and Clara's gift changed everything. Kristen and I spent the night planning, mapping out how to revive Newman's Bistro under our restaurant's name. Clara joined us, her ideas sharp and bold, like the leader she had once been. We weren't just fighting for our little Wynwood spot anymore. We were building something bigger, something Stephen could never touch. His downfall was justice, not just for me, but for Clara, for every dream he had tried to crush. As we packed for the festival, Tara called with an update. "Your booth's the talk of the festival," she said, voice brimming with excitement. "They want you to host a cooking demo on the main stage." I gripped the phone, chest tight with anticipation. The festival was our moment to cement Clara's legacy, but also to show the world what we had built. With Newman's Bistro now in my hands, I wasn't just fighting for our Wynwood spot. I was carrying forward a vision Stephen had tried to bury. The festival was a whirlwind. Vibrant stalls stretched along the Miami waterfront. Our booth, showcasing Clara's bold flavors, drew crowds spilling into neighboring lanes. I caught Clara's eye as she plated dishes, movements precise, face glowing with purpose. Kristen hustled between orders, flashing her infectious grin at every customer. A young woman approached, hands nervously clutching a notebook. "I'm Stacy, a culinary student," she said, voice eager. "Your story inspires me. Can I work with you?" I smiled, seeing my younger self in her ambition. "Come by Monday," I said, already picturing her in our kitchen. The festival's success propelled us forward. Reservations poured in, and we couldn't keep up with demand at our original location.